The US M14 proved itself as quite a match rifle, dominating Camp Perry for quite a few years. The problem with the M14 though, it's a machine gun. So for civilians, it's a very difficult rifle to obtain. And that's where the M1A came in. It started off as a match rifle, but now with guns like the SOCOM and others, it's really a fun but serious tactical rifle.
The Springfield M1A is an interesting and unique example, up to the point that the M14 became the U.S. service rifle in 1957. It was typical that the service rifles would make their way out of the ranks of active service and into the ranks of shooting clubs and high-power service rifle competition. Well, with the M14, you had a little bit of a problem. The M14 was considered a machine gun by the BATF, and in that regard, it never was available for sale to civilians, at least in any significant numbers. So by the time Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara announced the closing of Springfield Armory, which would take place in 1968, and essentially finish the production of the M14 service rifle. Of course, the military had already had plans made and production going on the M16 rifle, but by the time Springfield was closed, it got a few fellows who were competitors at Camp Perry to talking about how do we address this issue of an M14 type rifle that might be legally acceptable for civilian purchase and use in competition. So in 1969, in one of the huts at Camp Perry, several gentlemen got together, one by the name of Elmer Balance and one by the name of Melvin Smith, and discussed the possibility of producing an investment cast, semi-automatic only M14 type civilian rifle platform. And from that discussion, the LH Gun Company of Devine, Texas was formed. A few years later, Mr. Balance would sell his endeavors to Bob Reese, who was the patriarch of the family that came to own what became known as Springfield Armory. So by the early 1970s, you had this new gun emerging, coming into a fuller state of regular production, and it was eventually dubbed M1A, which is a registered trademark today of Springfield Armory. When you say M1A, what you're actually referring to is the semi-automatic M14 type platform that's produced by Springfield Armory in Geneseo, Illinois. That's the only genuine M1A in that sense. There are other companies that have produced semi-automatic M14 type rifles, but M1A is actually a trademark of Springfield Armory.
When the Reese family began manufacturing these guns under the name Springfield Armory Incorporated in 1974, they really changed the nature and the actual style of competitive shooting in this country ever since. Because for the first time, average civilians could get a hold of basically the M14 style rifle, take that .308 cartridge out to the range, out to Camp Perry, out to the regionals and sectionals, and use it.
So Springfield's been producing the M1A in a variety of versions now for 38 years. It's a well-proven platform, great gun, useful for anything from high-power competition to hunting to personal defense. These are a proven rifle, a proven platform, as the company says, with a receiver material and hardness characteristics that are equal to the military versions. It is a precision investment cast receiver rather than a forged receiver, but I've known people who have screwed on 4 and 5 and 6 barrels and more onto their Springfield Armory M1A that they've used in high power competition. So I mean, these are very well proven guns.
The M1A is much more than just a match rifle. The guys at Springfield Armory have come up with a number of different variants that are really just a lot of fun to shoot. They have the Squad Scout. Then they developed the SOCOM. You know, the biggest innovation in firearms and rifles really hasn't had much to do with the rifle in recent years. It has to do with rails. Putting a quad rail on the front of a gun makes it a lot more versatile. For the military, you can put everything you want on there. You want your designator, great. You want a bipod, great. Grenade launcher, sure. Well, civilians don't worry about that sort of stuff. Maybe they want to put a foregrip on. Maybe they want to put a light on. But with guns like the SOCOM and the SOCOM 2, what Springfield did was make the stodgy, the classic M1A just a lot of fun. I mean, a guy looks at that and they say, okay, that's pretty cool. Where'd you get that? And that's something that a gun manufacturer is looking for. They're looking for a little wow factor.